Hello, and today we have Naruto! Well, in the last part we had quite a showdown with Zabuza. By the way, here he is lying down, relaxing with his boyfriend. Well, let's not bother them. If you want to refresh your memory about their romantic relationship, check out the first part on my channel. So, after Team 7 helped the brat Inari and his conman grandpa finish building the bridge, they finally managed to get off that stupid island, which means there's some time to chill a bit. For example, Naruto is just lying there scratching his balls against a tree branch. Oops. Well anyway, tough luck for you, as they say, because playtime at the water park is over and it's time to get down to real business. Here, the guys who managed to defeat one of the supposedly most powerful rogue ninjas on their own are now carrying out such an important strategic mission for the village as weeding out the garden.
Hey you? Are you crazy or what?
I agree, it might seem a bit too harsh. Then take a look at the mission where Naruto decided to walk a puppy through a minefield. For the thrill...
Just for fun. Damn, honestly, at this point, everything just goes to expenses. And I'm just thinking, what the hell is this? Why is he even getting on my case?
Guys, and could you tell me, what do you do for a living? How do you make your money? You see, dog, he was just in his own world, so he got a bit unlucky. Well, yeah, as you might have already guessed, the episode starts with the kids running errands on low-ranking missions. There's really nothing interesting here, everything's as usual. Like Naruto almost managed to die while fishing trash out of the river. Yeah, everything's pretty much the same as always, except for one thing. The guys aren't getting along with each other anymore. The thing is, even though Sasuke got his ass handed to him by Haku last time, he did it in style, shielding Naruto with his own body. You could say he went down with respect. Considering that if Haku hadn't turned out to be a pacifist with a thing for BDSM games, Uchiha wouldn't have made it out alive, right? Naruto, quite reasonably, feels indebted to his partner after that. It's a cute kind of chemistry between the guys, I'd say, because you might think that a gesture like that would actually bring them closer together. But here, so to speak, interpersonal feelings come into conflict with the lofty ambitions of both. As we remember, Sasuke... And it doesn't matter to him how dramatically he lost, he still feels like a loser. In other words, his goal to become the strongest in order to kill someone out there is still pretty far off for him. Moreover, he practically died on this mission, which means he was hanging by a thread, so close to failing his entire life's goal of killing his brother. This puts the Uchiha in a state of frustration, which is why he tries his hardest to prove to himself and others that this was just a one-time thing, and that, in reality, he is strong enough. That's where his wild urge in this arc comes from, to pick fights with the strongest genin during the Chunin Exams. But more on that later. Naruto, for his part, also feels like he kind of messed up since he wants to become the strongest and earn the title of Hokage, but in reality, he almost died from Haku and only got off easy thanks to Sasuke. He has no intention of accepting this, so he also starts acting all cocky and trying his hardest. What's especially endearing about all this is that even though both of these roosters are strutting their stuff more than ever, you can still see the mutual respect they have for each other behind all the rivalry. It really has become, well, much stronger. For example, Naruto and Sasuke are now quite capable of having serious conversations from time to time when it comes to important matters, and even, well, you could say they believe in each other. That is, they try to convince themselves and everyone else that each of them is stronger than the other, but at the same time, they see the other as someone who can easily handle any random no-name opponents. Overall, we could notice that in the first season, there's a kind of balance maintained between Naruto's and Sasuke's strength. Essentially, the whole plot is built like a curve where they take turns being at the peak of coolness. For example, the anime starts by showing off how badass Sasuke is, but right after that, Naruto humiliates him to disguise himself as an Uchiha and make a move on Sakura. Then comes Kakashi's test where both of them mess up, but immediately after that Sasuke is on top again in a fight against two nobodies from the mist. Then Naruto takes the spotlight against Zabuza, and after that Sasuke steps up. The Sharingan holds up well against Haku, but Sasuke shields Naruto, and then it's Naruto's turn to show what he can do with the power of the Nine Tails. So as you can see, now it's Naruto's turn to get dunked on, so for the next few episodes everyone's going to be putting him down. Let's see exactly how this is going to happen. Well then, the process of putting him down begins. Here's how it starts.
Alright, that's it. I'm leaving you guys.
Oh right, my most loyal fans who watched the first part of the review know that the clips are because of the German. I only include clips from the racially correct dubs, 2G2 or Jetix, because first of all, Vegas refuses to read the Japanese audio track, and secondly, in my subtitles, all inappropriate swear words are translated as sandal. And before this, Zabuza went from being the demon hidden in the mist to just an ordinary thug. So don't worry about it, you'll get used to it soon enough. For example, just look at how well they translated and dubbed the appearance of Konohamaru and his crew of losers.
We're studying adult romance. Kunoichi from the senior group. Favorite technique, multiplication and division. Name's Udon. Together, we are the Konohamaru squad.
Impressive, of course. Still, I was never really a big fan of that brat. Well, Konkuro can put it much better than I can.
Yeah, you're really crazy. I can't stand kids at all.
Especially ones that little.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, let me introduce you. This is Konkuro, a shinobi from the village hidden in the sand. As you can see, he's not from around here.
Did you forget something in a village that's not yours?
So, check out what kind of action is going on here. Twice a year, there's a special tough exam held for shinobi genin. If they survive, they get a chance to move up to the next level and get promoted to the rank of Chunin. Well, those are the dummies who can't dodge kunai and get soloed by academy students. Definitely an opportunity you really shouldn't miss. That's why, as soon as the exam is held in a village, a huge crowd of freeloaders from all the villages immediately floods in to test their strength in this tough competition. For example, these intimidating guys here who have bad written on their hats.
Bad, bad, bad.
These guys, one of them is disabled and the other two look like a grown-up Goomba or maybe Konkuro, yeah. Well, honestly, his look matches that description. So, a little spat breaks out between Konkuro and Naruto, mainly because, first of all, he's an idiot.
Shrimp! You'd better stop or you'll have problems later! And
Secondly,
I can't stand them at all. Kids!
just look at this one. Dumbass! He arrived in Konoha with special permission to take part in an important exam, but he's willing to risk all of that just to show off all his secret techniques right from the start, and at the same time break the laws of this village. And all of this just because I absolutely can't stand kids. And if we go even further and add that the real goal of the Sand Shinobi is to prepare a large-scale attack on Konoha, which means they should be as quiet as possible and avoid drawing any unnecessary attention. The reason being, I just can't stand them at all. Kids make it even more damn ridiculous to mess all this up. Just imagine you're the president of a village sitting there in your damn desert starving and dying of thirst. To gain more influence and resources, you make an alliance with another village president and come up with a cunning plan for how you'll quietly and quickly take down your powerful neighbor by launching a surprise attack. Then suddenly you find out that the whole mission has gone to shit and your plan has failed simply because one of your key guys who was supposed to infiltrate the enemy says, "I just can't stand kids," and blows the whole operation. Well, that's just perfect. Luckily, all this crap is interrupted just in time by the third member of the team named Sabaku no Gara. The moment Kankuro sees Gara, he immediately backs down because, well, it's one thing to beat up little kids. But it's a whole different story to get into a conflict with a dramatic, fully grown teenager. Be that as it may, the Sand Trio decides to take their leave. Sabaku no Gara exchanges contacts with Sasuke, and the latter starts thinking about how he's going to take down powerful, tough opponents, proving his awesome skills to himself. Naruto, on the other hand, dreams about fighting Kankuro. This is a small moment that shows just how clueless Naruto is in this regard because, unlike Sasuke, who perfectly read the atmosphere and figured out the trio's boss, the boss of the sand, Naruto didn't even pay attention to Gaara, seeing this guy as his opponent, the one in the intimidating cocoon with the purple mess on his face. It's just a little detail meant to show us the difference in thinking between Naruto and Sasuke, and once again put the blonde down. Because damn it, you've got this eyebrowless, pretentious guy who, besides looking like a raccoon on GHB, is standing upside down holding a huge clay jug behind his back. Plus, he also has a tattoo with a Chinese character for love. And red hair? Damn, you don't have to be a genius to realize he's the ultimate badass. In anime, the most ruthless ones always come out on top because that's the main rule. If you're crazy and don't give a damn about anything, you dominate. But no, Naruto decided to pick the guy in the cocoon as his rival. I mean, seriously, is he an idiot or what? Anyway, after all that, they decide to show us how Iruka-sensei, the guy everyone had already completely forgotten about, decides to test all his students to make sure they're ready to take the Chunin exam. Well, there's nothing interesting about it, he just disguises himself as some idiot and gets his ass kicked by each of the students in turn. Overall, you have to respect him for that. That's a pretty responsible teaching approach. After all, not every teacher is willing to go to such lengths for their former students, kidnapping a random little girl, tying her up, threatening to kill her, all just to test how strong they are. That deserves respect, and Maegi in principle should already be getting used to this, knowing how Kishimoto writes female characters. Playing with Shibari is basically going to be her main activity once she becomes a full-fledged ninja. So everyone passes the practical tests and decides to go sign up for the exam. Even Sakura, who basically realized her own uselessness and weakness and didn't want to take part in any of this. The most interesting thing about all of this is how the atmosphere around the other exam participants is gradually being intensified for us. We're shown a whole bunch of new characters one after another, making us wonder who they are and how they'll reveal themselves. Plus, we're subtly reminded about Naruto's former classmates as well. All of this makes the world of Naruto feel alive and populated with a wide variety of vibrant characters instead of focusing solely on Naruto's team. To put it simply, we're just occasionally shown random scenes where some unfamiliar guys are showing off, like I'm the strongest genin in the Leaf Village. If you've ever watched a show like Fear Factor, you'll immediately recognize where this trick was borrowed from, and you'll also notice that the ones who show off the most usually get knocked out in the very first round. To stay strong, powerful, and dominate everyone until the very end. Anime, just look at how Kabuto behaves. He shows up for the first time and immediately claims he's a loser, played some games with the guys at poker. Then he dodged a punch to the face once and threw up. After that, he said he'd had enough and backed out. In the end, he turned out to be one of the most powerful bastards in the whole anime, who, a couple hundred episodes later, was resurrecting all sorts of pompous weirdos and making them fight other pompous weirdos with his own power. All this time he was just sitting on his ass in a cave petting his snake. And now just look at all these cocky losers, Gaara, Kiba, and Neji. He got his ass kicked by Naruto. This bold rock clip guy almost understood her, and at first pretended to be a nobody when a couple of punks were bullying the newbies before the exam. But he couldn't keep his whirlwind and his konoha in his pants, blew his whole cover just to hit on Sakura and show off how cool he was. Let's date. Better back off, you're chubby. Oh crap! He beat up Naruto and Sasuke with ease, didn't even break a sweat. And just look at what came out of it. At the same time, he set up Meiji, who actually came up with the plan, which is why during the exam he managed to beat up a weak, timid girl and then got smacked by Naruto. Anime gravity works in such a way that if you get too carried away with your own hype, it quickly brings you back down to earth. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, folks. Let's take it step by step. As I already mentioned, two guys decide to hassle the kids, not letting them submit their documents to start the exam. But it's all just a clever trick. In reality, they're Chunin and are just running this little test. Here are these three goofballs, Neiji's team, which consists of Neji, Rock Lee, and Tenten. And at first, they logically figured that in an exam where everyone is competing against each other and where the element of surprise could play a decisive role, it wouldn't be a bad idea to trick others and make them think that you... A bunch of losers, total nobodies, just hopeless people in general who shouldn't be taken seriously. Sasuke, for example, isn't that smart, and for him, his personal hang-ups are much more important than these kinds of silly tactics because for him, his personal hang-ups are way more important than these kinds of silly tactics since after all, he's not planning to gain Itachi's trust and then stab him in his sleep. Like a real, true, honest ninja, he wants to face him one-on-one, man-to-man and beat him down with his own hands. So these pathetic tricks just for some stupid exam are pointless to him. He honestly doesn't even care whether he passes or not. He just wants to fight some tough guys to test his own skills. Actually, due to the fact that Rock Lee quickly fell for Sakura, such an opportunity comes his way.
Leafy Whirlwind. What?
Well, as you can see, it didn't turn out very well. Before this, Rock Lee had already managed to beat up Naruto himself, humiliating him once again.
Kano Harepu! About.
Don't be surprised that the guy speaks sometimes Russian, sometimes Japanese. He knows English too.
Sakura-san, I love you!
Looking at this, you might ask, what about Sharingan? After all, the thing about the Sharingan is that with its help, you can...
To predict techniques that require chakra spinning or forming hand signs to perform.
Well, the thing is, Rock Lee is, how should I put it, an underdog. That is, from the start, this guy can't use either ninjutsu or genjutsu. The only thing left for him is to train taijutsu. In other words, hand-to-hand combat. Basically, by training his body to such an impressive level that he's able to beat up Sasuke. And simply because no matter how well they read his movements here, it doesn't matter. He just won't have time to do anything before he gets punched in the face. So yeah, that's how Rock Lee wins this fight. And yeah, he's a damn cool character because he's made up entirely of contrasts. I mean, he's basically the most limited of all the ninjas when it comes to techniques, but at the same time, he's one of the strongest. He constantly makes himself look like a joke, both because of his behavior and his appearance, but he's actually a dangerously powerful fighter. He seems like an idiot, but at the same time he has tremendous willpower and selflessness. And following a character who overcomes obstacles on the way to his goal is always really fascinating, and Ilya is exactly that kind of character. Basically, it's because of his idiotic side that Sasuke, he especially burns with frustration from this defeat because, you know, losing to Haku or Zabuza is unpleasant, but you can live with it. But here he gets completely outclassed by a guy who looks like a total loser. In fact, Lee was already ready to smash Uchiha's head into the tiles, but was stopped in time by his teacher, Guy.
What's going on here? How are you all doing?
Well, as you can see, these guys are evenly matched. Moreover, it turns out that Guy is a longtime rival of Kakashi, and supposedly he's not inferior to him at all. Hey.
Guys, how's Kakashi-sensei doing? Wait, you know Kakashi? People call us eternal rivals. And I have to tell you, I'm stronger than Kakashi.
And with that clarification, it adds even more intrigue for his student. On top of that, even Rock Lee himself says that, honestly, he doesn't care about Sasuke at all. He was just testing his own skills because the toughest, most powerful guy in the whole village is his partner, Neji Hyuga. And with him, he has a long-standing rivalry like the one between Naruto and Sasuke. In fact, the main reason he even entered the exam was just, to
take him down.
A commendable goal, as you can see. The second arc is actually pretty intriguing right from the start. Then Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura arrive at the main hall where all the participants gather to begin the first stage. There, they meet Kabuto and run into their former classmates. Well then, let's get to know them too, so it'll be easier for us to navigate this whole school crowd later on. Choji Akimichi is a fat goof whose main priority in life is stuffing his chubby belly with food so he can die of cholesterol before other ninjas get to him. Despite this, the guy is sharp. After watching enough American comedies, he realized in time that people like him get their underwear pulled over their heads at school, so he got ahead of the game, sewed a Konoha protector onto them, and now he struts around with his undies on his head without a care. Ino the nutcase. She looks better than Sakura, dresses like a slut and wants to make a good deal with her pussy. Basically, she's doing just fine. The second woman in this neighboring party is Hinata, Neji's sister, who's in love with Naruto but she's shy about it. If you've studied deep psychology, you know that articles of clothing, it's yet another way for people to distance themselves from the world and protect themselves. That's exactly why in Evangelion, when the SEAL organization interrogates Ritsuko Akagi, they do it while she's standing naked. Because that way, they destabilize her psyche and strip her of her sense of protection. Now just imagine how cut off from everyone you have to be to run around in a fur coat in the summer, constantly doing physical sports for fuck's sake. Even though Hinata was my waifu when I was a kid, before she was replaced by Temari, then Konan, well anyway, it doesn't matter. I hope she has a good deodorant, otherwise she'll end up regretting it. Her partner is Inuzuka Kiba, another weirdo who wears a winter jacket with a hood and shorts, but he's actually fine. The thing is, he's the local werewolf. As Seryoja calls him, a beastman. He's always running around with his dog Akamaru, and they even fight together. I guess it would be pretty awkward to be the only bald dog in the pack if you're hoping to succeed in this line of work. So, a fur jacket, as a sign of his animal nature, doesn't signal any kind of abnormality at all. The third member of their team is Shino, last name Abrame. He's secretive, speaks in his own kind of dialect, old-fashioned basically, but in the Russian dub of course they totally missed that aspect. He also dresses like an idiot, but in his case it's because he carries several tons of damn bugs inside his belly. They crawl out of these kinds of holes, so just imagine what this guy's body looks like without clothes on, especially if you have trypophobia, and be grateful to him for never undressing in front of you. And finally, Nara Shikamaru from Ino's team. Here, it's just a perfect hit with the audience, no wonder the guy has so many fans. What's his thing? To put it simply, he's insanely smart but also kind of a slacker. And that's really important because it lets the audience feel a strong connection to this character. Shikamaru doesn't care about anything. He's basically a genius, but he never shows it unless the situation gets critical. And that's all because he's just lazy. He doesn't want to draw unnecessary attention to himself, even when someone gets smacked for showing off. Shikamaru mostly looks at it from the perspective of, well, you shouldn't have been showing off, man. This creates a huge sense of empathy in the viewer because all of us want to be super smart like Shikamaru, but most of us have never won any major competitions, never had a reputation as a genius, and are more likely to be known as, well, losers. That's why it's a bit hard for us to associate ourselves with someone like Light Yagami because we've never been known as the best student in Japan, or like Lelouch because most likely most of us have never played chess for money while blindfolded. But at the same time, we like to think that we have a reputation for being idiots. Simply because we don't give a damn, not because we inherited 3 extra chromosomes from our dad. That's why we like Shikamaru. But not me, because when I was in 10th to 7th grade at the gymnasium, I won 3rd place at the Olympiad in biology, and I didn't even damn it prepare for it. So I don't need those cheap excuses. Shikamaru, I think sometimes they overemphasize how smart he is because he generates complex multi-move moves in anime, where even the most fucking stupid one. According to public opinion, the character constantly generates complex multi-move combinations. Brilliant. Well, we've met everyone, so let's get back to the plot. Naruto confidently throws, "My name is Naru. Uzumaki, I will be able to defeat you all." You'll see. What is causing the anger of many exam participants? Fuck, well, there is something to be afraid of. You just have to appreciate how powerful these guys are. This guy's nose is even bigger than Mario's, so if he comes into contact with the previous team from the Village of Rain, jumps on an evil Goomba, and then eats a good one, he'll get a buff for invincibility, and in a few seconds will wipe out all the losers in this room.
Or check out this guy.
Remember when I told you about M in the anime? This one is so hardcore that his headband with the village logo got scared and hid behind his bangs. The rest of the people in this room are so cool they don't even care. They're just chilling. But here are a few. Delbekov from
Goria attack?
They got a bit pissed off because Kabuto called their village a dick, so small it could fit under a chihuahua's tail, and decided to teach the nerd a little lesson. Well, we all get it. It's the main rule of anime, so let's start the timer until all three of them get totally wrecked. So after that, the exam actually begins. So let's move on to explaining what it's all about. Look bro, here's the deal. The first part of the exam is well written. You have to solve a test. The questions are pretty interesting. For example, check this out. The illustration below shows a highland with an elevation of 1,100 meters captured by the presumed enemy A. Carry out an incursion into enemy territory, given that the approximate location of the enemy's defensive line is known. Justify your actions or indicate the most important point of the attack route, taking into account the mountainous terrain. Or here's another one. A certain chemical component is present in a solution of diethyl ether. Add hydrochloric acid to the diethyl ether solution to dissolve the precipitate. Add and mix a solution of caustic soda in the same way with the precipitate in the diethyl ether solution. Identify and describe the name and structure of the chemical component in the diethyl ether solution. Well, anyway, you get the idea. Obviously, none of these degenerates would ever be able to solve crap like this in their lives. So the real purpose of this exam is to see how these guys can use their abilities to get the information they need from others. That's why there are two planted Chunin in the room who know all the answers. And Genin's task is to figure out who they are and copy from them without getting caught. For every time you get caught, you lose 2 points and you have 10 in total. So if you get caught 5 times, you're out. Of course, this isn't stated directly, but almost everyone figures it out quickly and finds the info they need. Almost everyone. The only ones, aside from those who were already eliminated, who were clueless enough not to notice this, were Naruto and Sakura. Which is ironic, considering Sakura is probably the only one who answered all the questions on her own, and Naruto is the only one who didn't realize he was supposed to cheat, and at the same time he couldn't answer a single question. Moreover, Sakura turns out to be clueless enough to be surprised that the team's total score would be evaluated. Which is pretty logical considering that before the exam even started, Kakashi himself told them that only full teams would be allowed to participate since the first part of the exam would be taken as a team. Well, what a genius, huh? No wonder she's the top student, no wonder her forehead is so big. So when the allotted time runs out, it's time for everyone to answer the 10th question. And the examiner, Ibiki Morino, says that if someone can't answer the question, then they'll never be allowed to take the exam again. They won't be admitted to the exam. So, here's the choice. Either give up and try again next time, which also means failing your whole team, or risk everything. Well, obviously this is a blatant scam, no doubt about it. Kakashi set the same conditions for his team when he gave them his own test. Naruto's team should have figured that out, but nope, it wasn't meant to be. So the whole room suddenly gets really tense. For example, just look at this old man. At that moment I felt so sorry for him that I rooted for him until the very end of the exam. I'll go even further, I was in tears searching for him with my eyes. Among the survivors after the 4th Great Ninja War at the end of Shippuden. But anyway, everything works out, and the decision to give up or stay is actually the answer to the 10th question. Basically, if you didn't chicken out and weren't dumb enough to get caught cheating during that time, then you pass. So, we can breathe a sigh of relief for the old man. All the main characters of the anime passed the first part of the exam, and the second stage begins. It's presented to us by this beauty right here. Well, not bad really. Her name is Anko Mitarashi, she's artistic, loves red spurting blood and red beans. Yeah, that's fine, works for me. Yeah, the third one, Busy, the Hokage himself. Yeah. So, she explains the conditions of the second stage of the exam. In it, all the kids are let loose to wander around a huge forest called the Forest of Death. Well, if the name didn't make you wary, then just so you know, everyone is given a waiver to sign beforehand, stating that, so to speak, in case of their untimely demise, they won't have any complaints. Here's what is required of them. Within the allotted 5 days, first, they have to stay alive, and then they need to obtain 2 scrolls, one of Earth and one of Heaven. Each team is given one of these scrolls at random. In other words, to get the full set, you have to find a team that has the scroll you're missing and take it from them. Therefore, at most half of the exam participants can pass the exam. And finally, these scrolls need to be delivered to the tower, which is located right in the center of the forest. Again, without dying even once in the process. But inside the forest itself, not counting the other teams who will try to kill you and take your scroll as well. Plus, there are all sorts of predatory animals, wild insects, plants and traps. In short, you'll have to survive. Shikamaru described this test pretty well. This test is just pure, separate horror, and it really gives you the chills. These guys right here. Let's deal with the rookies. We'll take their scroll from them very soon. Fuck, these are really scary. One wears a stone mask, another paints his lips, the third licks all sorts of crap with his tongue. It's even written on the hats. Hoi sucker sucker. Ultimately, each team is released into the forest through a different gate. And the test begins. Wow, how happy you are. Strangely enough, at first they decide to show us the brutality of what's happening through Naruto's former classmates, namely Kiba, Shino and Hinata's team. They very quickly and skillfully set up traps, which the not-so-smart guys immediately fell into. Which, in principle, makes sense, since all three of them have the perfect set of abilities for this test. Kiba is a beast with an acute sense of smell. Shino can control insects, and Hinata is able to scan the area with her Byakugan. However, what's more interesting is that some of the participants, instead of bragging like everyone else about how tough they are and how they're going to crush everyone, start specifically discussing Naruto's team, which raises some suspicions. So, here's how things stand. Naruto tells his team, "It's all good guys, we're going to crush everyone easily, but first I need to pee." Sakura asks, "Pee?" And Naruto replies, "Yeah, pee." To which that damn tramp sends him off somewhere into the thicket. "Fucking hell, you whore! What did you dye your hair with that it ate away your brains along with the pigment? Bitch, in the middle of a dense forest that's packed to the brim with guys who want to kill you, full of traps, poisonous insects, poisonous animals, regular insects, poisonous plants and poisonous traps. You just go and send the dumbest guy on your team, who by the way almost managed to kill himself earlier just by picking up trash in his own village, off on his own like it's nothing. In broad daylight with no poisonous traps, plants, poisonous insects or poisonous animals around. You yourself are the damn animal. What, are your neck vertebrae and legs paralyzed or something? You seriously can't just turn your head? But what pisses me off the most about this situation is the real reason behind it all, and it's called her whoring around. Because if, say, it wasn't Naruto who wanted it, but I think she'd be the first to offer him her body, and support him too. That's why I want to organize a special socio-political movement that will finally put an end to this whoring around in anime. I'm outraged that after so many years, no one before me has bothered to address this issue, because such blatant whoring is not something you can just tolerate, you know? Therefore, I urge everyone watching this to share this video with all your friends. Write in, post in public groups, share it on your own page, register an account on Odnoklasniki, who knows, maybe your old classmate is already into whoring. If among your girlfriends there's one who painted the tower pink, as a friend, suggest she watch you pee. If she refuses, know this, the infection has already taken root in her. Send her my video, bro, don't be shy. Only together can we fight this disease and rid anime of whoring. So basically Yasinho and Naruto get caught in a trap, and then this asthmatic guy decides to transform into him and trick Team 7 that way. Sakura falls for all of this easily. Well, what did you expect? But Sasuke decides not to miss the opportunity and punches Naruto in the face, then criticizes his disguise. You see the kunai holster? It's on the wrong side and there's no scratch on his cheek. Well damn, what did you expect? Just look at his team, this idiot. Among them is the pride of the nation. Yeah, he's a bit blind and can't tell right from left. And the other two, seriously, one's a Cyclops and the other's blind. No wonder they didn't even bother to take them on the mission. Damn ninjas, they probably chose their leader based on who had the most eyes. So, Sasuke frees Naruto, and together they beat the crap out of the asthmatic guy. After that, they decide to get together and come up with a special password for their team, which would help them identify infiltrators. They come up with some ridiculously long password, like imagine if you and your friends went on a military campaign and they asked you to memorize a volume of Byron as a greeting. But behind all this, there's also a cunning plan from the genius. Knowing they were being eavesdropped on, Uchiha deliberately came up with a password that Naruto wouldn't be able to remember in order to expose the intruder. He didn't really consider that someone could disguise themselves as Sakura. Well, honestly, who the hell would even bother with that idiot? The plan works, and the scatterbrain still can't figure out how any of this actually works. But before moving on to the next steps, you know what? Okay, I know I've touched on this topic before, but let's talk about Sakura one more time. This time, Seriously, honestly, I despise this character so much that I think I'll make it a good tradition in this series to roast Sakura in every episode. I suppose no one will argue with the fact that, for all its strengths, Naruto is one of those works that really loves to allow illogical conventions for the sake of the author's plot ideas. And if you don't count the famous Naruto therapy, this is most obvious in the personal traits of characters like Naruto and Sakura. Basically, it's all pretty simple here. Naruto is portrayed as a rather dumb character, while Sakura is supposed to be a very smart girl. Sasuke is somewhere in the middle, so there's no problem with him. We can understand this arrangement from the remarks of other characters, the recurring gags about Naruto's stupidity, as well as from the official data books. Nevertheless, in some unbelievable way, it turns out that in battles, Naruto often comes up with good and well thought out plans, while Sakura at the same time keeps hitting new lows one after another. It might seem that this is where the inconsistency lies. After all, the character who is openly presented as dumb actually turns out to be smart, and conversely, the character everyone calls smart keeps acting foolish. But after thinking it over, I realized that this actually makes perfect sense and is completely logical. Because in such awesome moments like this one, where the supposedly smart Sakura couldn't even recognize Delbic's basic trap from the Village of Rain, everything is absolutely logical and makes perfect sense. Honestly, I don't know if Kishimoto planned all of this deliberately, or if he just has good intuition and writes these details unconsciously, but the point here isn't about intelligence at all. It's about simple passivity and lack of self-confidence. Naruto, he really isn't the brightest when it comes to intelligence. He's not super dumb, but you can't really call him very smart either. He has trouble absorbing information, easily falls for tricks, and isn't able to handle really complicated things. However, just because you're an idiot in some areas doesn't mean you're an idiot in everything. Naruto has exactly two aspects that interest him, and he pays a lot of attention to them. First of all, he's a pretty good empath, but only when someone else's problem resonates with his own. For example, Naruto absolutely can't understand Sakura, who's actually quite ordinary. She's just a typical girl, and basically thinks like any other girl like her. But he can easily understand how someone like Konohamaru feels, wanting to break free from the trap of his reputation and show others what he's really worth. Because in many ways they're the same, it's just that Naruto was always seen as a monster because of the Nine Tails incident. And no one wanted to get to know his true self, while Konohamaru, on the contrary, was seen as the revered grandson of the Hokage. But again, no one cared about who he was as a person. For the same reason, Naruto immediately noticed the scars on Rock Lee's hand because he too pushed himself to the limit in training to reach the level of the others and prove that he was just as good. And right at that moment, his anger and confusion are replaced by sympathy and understanding. He himself doesn't really understand what he understands, but somehow he does understand. Brilliantly put. That's why Naruto can deep down understand Sasuke, but he can't understand Sakura. The second aspect, which is extremely important for Naruto, is fighting. Because it is precisely through them that he decided to achieve his goal. It is through battles and becoming the greatest ninja that Naruto hopes to earn love and recognition. That's why, yes, usually not the smartest, Naruto during a fight or training makes his brain work at full capacity. At 120%, because he isn't afraid, he doesn't look for ways to retreat, but instead works hard to find the keys to victory. And that's what he thinks about all the fucking time, absolutely, even when he's not fighting. At the same time with Sakura, it's the complete opposite. She is passive, incredibly passive. So passive that in a combat situation, her brain just completely shuts off and she stops understanding anything at all. She's actually not stupid, well, at least for her age. But she's the kind of person who can memorize theory perfectly and then forget absolutely everything in practice because of nerves. That's why it was easy for her to take the test, but she turned out to be completely unable to see through the deception of the Rain Ninja and Orochimaru. Because Sakura will never take part in a fight unless there's simply no other choice. Every time the team got into a fight, all Sakura did was encourage and watch her teammates. And the whole point is that Sakura is catastrophically insecure. It's this insecurity that she tries to hide behind aggressive behavior, especially when it comes to Ino or Naruto. In short, she only acts out with those she knows for sure won't hit back because, for example, in a conflict with someone like Kankuro, she quickly kept her mouth shut. However, in other situations, she does everything she can to avoid conflict. Moreover, for someone like Sakura, it's important to avoid a real confrontation while also making sure that no one else notices. In other words, it's extremely important for her to find an excuse for herself. In the previous part, Tazuna might have thought that Sakura was a brave girl, ready to stand up for him no matter what, and that he was lucky in that regard. But the truth is, it was actually Sakura who was lucky to have Tazuna rather than the other way around. Tazuna gave Sakura the perfect behavior to follow, an excuse for not participating in the battle. After all, from the outside, it looks like she's really protecting the old man and flawlessly following Kakashi's orders. But the reality is, if Zabuza had decided to attack the old man, he would have just cut down both him and Sakura with a single blow. Basically, that's exactly what we see at the moment when Zabuza decides to attack the old man. Sakura didn't even have time to move, or maybe she was too scared to move and Kakashi took the blow instead, which makes all of her help absolutely useless. But from the outside, it looks pretty good, right? As if she's protecting Tazuna, giving the rest of the team a chance to focus on the fight. But that's just bullshit. If Sakura really wanted to help, she would have done at least something. She could have at least tried to analyze Zabuza's fighting style and help the guys during the strategy planning stage. Well, as an example, you can look at Attack on Titan, where, for instance, Armin, he's not much of a fighter either, but he always tries to help the team somehow, coming up with tactics, sometimes making sacrifices and so on. But Sakura isn't capable of that because she doesn't even believe in her own ability to fight, to the point that she doesn't even try to do anything at all. A perfect example of this is the Genjutsu moment before the exam. Izumo and Kotetsu, those two guys, cast a simple Genjutsu on the area to confuse the students. Of course, someone like Naruto would never notice it, but Sasuke easily exposes it. However, Sakura, who had been nearby the whole time and who supposedly had the ability to use Genjutsu, didn't even say a word about it until he encouraged her. Sasuke essentially gives Sakura permission to turn on her brain and show what she's capable of. And she doesn't even realize it right away, but then quickly explains just how obvious it all actually was. However, if Sasuke hadn't said anything, Sakura's brain would have switched on much later, or maybe not at all. In short, that's all clear. These are really well-constructed character portrayals and there are no contradictions here. There is one major contradiction in the world building of the entire anime. The thing is, Sakura is essentially dead weight for the team. She isn't even a little bit useful and is actually a hindrance. Think about all the qualities people attribute to her. She's pretty good at recognizing Genjutsu. Okay, sure. However, she can't do it on her own without someone else's approval because she's extremely insecure. And overall, that's not much of a contribution to the team, especially when the strongest member has special eyes, one of whose basic abilities is to easily dispel any Genjutsu. In other words, Sasuke's immunity to Genjutsu is much higher than Sakura's. Sakura is also smart, and she's good at absorbing theoretical information. However, she's completely unable to use it in practice because during a fight her mind just shuts down and she can't even recognize the most basic trick. Not to mention, throughout the entire anime, she almost never came up with any clever plans, unlike Naruto and Sasuke. Next, she has good chakra control. Great. But what's the point if she doesn't use it since she doesn't even get into a fight? Plus, her chakra control is hardly useful for anything because she's way too weak and her chakra reserves, she has very little and she doesn't know any powerful techniques either. For example, when she fights Ino in the future, she doesn't use a single technique, she just tries to beat her up with a kunai. She can't even encourage her team because she's the first to lose all confidence. So that's absolutely in every aspect. A useless and pathetic team member, even compared to other kunoichi, who aren't exactly impressive either. Hinata has the Byakugan, which can give her team an important advantage. Ino has mind control, plus she's a very good team player and generally a proactive girl, so she can act as the team leader. Tenten isn't particularly strong, but she can provide cover and at least isn't afraid to fight. Temari is generally much cooler than the same Apsos Conquer. Yes, even! Later in Shippuden, when all the main guys learn to throw on the ground, meteors control time and space, create giant armor, destroy half the earth with a single technique, Sakura will learn to channel chakra into her fists and hit hard. Wow. Cool. Especially considering that almost any genin can channel chakra into their legs, for example, to walk on water, so channeling it into their hand to strengthen an uppercut shouldn't be much of a problem for them either. And with that in mind, here's a question. What kind of idiot in the real world would even send this useless Sakura to any team at all? I mean, the village, the country, its reputation, sovereignty, and even lives could depend on the mission they're assigned. So, for a team like this, they decide to staff it with at least one absolutely useless and even harmful member, because this very Sakura will constantly demoralize the team, distract them, slow them down, and well, just to recall the saying, a herd moves at the speed of its slowest animal. This is the silly convention of the Naruto world, and as events unfold, all of this will become perfectly clear, which is ironic because as I understand it, the original idea was supposed to show Sakura's development, her growth as a person, but let's take it step by step. The guy who pretended to be Naruto is that very bad ninja with the tongue. and the subsequent fight with him is probably the most memorable part of this arc, aside from Lee's battle. And to start with, I really like this design. Orochimaru, that's his name, in case you're one of those who haven't watched Naruto, this is more or less what he looks like in his usual form. Basically, this is what most important antagonists look like in anime. Sort of handsome devils with a few distinctive features and a well thought out appearance but not overloaded with details. I mean, just look at some of the characters in Naruto. Take Pain for example. He looks like an ordinary guy, only standing out because of his eyes and piercings. The eyes are another bonus, and the piercing serves as a special transmitter needed for the user of his abilities. Or Itachi, also a completely ordinary person, has a Sharingan. And these things on his face give him a sickly and dried out look, which is again explained by the plot because Itachi is terminally ill. That same Kara has a single tattoo and dark circles around his eyes, both of which are explained by the story. And now take a look at this guy for example. His head is bandaged, there's a scar across half his face, he's missing an eye, his mouth is sewn shut, and even on his chest, there's some damn water pipe sticking out. It's obvious right away that this guy is going to die soon. Orochimaru, on the other hand, in his original disguise, actually looks not distinctive enough. Yes, he has that snake-like tongue, but aside from that, he looks very unremarkable, both in terms of clothing and his face and hairstyle. And this deceptive ordinariness makes him even more menacing when the guy starts doing all sorts of crazy things. That's why I actually like this version of the design even more than his real appearance. Orochimaru, honestly, that's the impression I got, but I'm really not sure if that's actually the case. So I'll set up a poll here in the corner and you can tell me if you got the same feeling or if it's just nonsense. That's all, let's start over. Overall, the fight with Orochimaru is awesome from start to finish. It all starts with Sasuke showing off how smart he is and how he outsmarted everyone, after which Orochimaru says, "Well, not bad," and just does this. In other words, just one look was enough for him to bring Sasuke back to reality. A state of complete shock. Just one look and they already understood that this guy is on a completely different level than they are. And where Zabuza kept shouting endlessly about how he fucking killed, damn it, Orochimaru shows his ruthlessness with just his presence. Sasuke ends up having to take a wound to his leg to get out of shock and dodge the attack. Orochimaru, although, I think it works differently and shock actually dulls the feeling of pain, but yeah, okay. Meanwhile, Naruto is chilling inside a huge snake. He manages to get out with the help of his favorite clones, which he's used so much in the first season that it feels like it's his own signature technique. He rushes to help Sakura and Sasuke, but the latter yells at him to get out of there as fast as he can. This leaves the guy so stunned that the tension in the air reaches its peak. Despite all his showy hatred, Naruto actually deeply respects Sasuke, otherwise he simply wouldn't have chosen him as his main rival. And now he comes in and sees that Sasuke has literally lost it from fear. The anger and disappointment Naruto feels from what he sees reaches such a level that the chakra of the Nine Tails bursts out again. And this wild rage helps you feel the character's despair like never before, because in this moment Orochimaru racks up even more cool points for himself. We know very well that the Nine Tails is an incredibly powerful thing that once almost destroyed an entire village. Its power is sealed inside Naruto and obviously is meant to serve as a trump card in the story, saving Naruto from hopeless situations. For example, there's Haku, whom the blonde managed to defeat with his own strength. He just can't take him down and there's no one left to help. The Berserk mode kicks in and the situation is resolved. In this way, the anime kind of keeps Naruto's power leveled the same, because Naruto's strength is his own, and the Nine Tails' strength is the Nine Tails, and the anime draws a clear line between the two. But it still lets us know that, if necessary this way, this is how you can get out of even the toughest situation. After all, even Zabuza, who was no ordinary guy and almost killed his own Kage, was shocked. He freaked out just from the fox's chakra alone without even seeing it manifest. And Akut was taken out with a single hit. However, Orochimaru easily neutralizes this super buff, completely taking Naruto out of the fight. Moreover, he isn't shocked or anything, he actually shows how well informed he is, mentally noting that he understands what's going on. So, if before he could still pass for a wildly dangerous but ultimately minor character, now it's clear that Orochimaru plays a major role in the story and is insanely powerful. Sasuke all this time is standing off to the side, trembling in fear. And even when Naruto falls, he just lowers his gaze humbly, admitting his own helplessness. Sakura is yelling at him, saying he's a coward, that Naruto is better than him and all that, which honestly is true. But you know, it's kind of weird coming from someone who didn't even try to help either of them in the fight. It's noteworthy that what motivates Sasuke isn't so much his beaten up friends, but rather the fact that he... Plus the onlookers. He remembers his brother, the one he wants to kill, but whereas before in his mind it was something like, I absolutely have to survive because if I die I won't be able to kill him, and so he would just train and fight those who weren't dangerous enough to kill him. Now this mindset has transformed into, if I'm not ready to face danger and win, then there's no way I'll be able to defeat my brother. Although, in reality, most likely the despair inside Sasuke at that moment simply reached such a level that he realized there was no other way left. But you know, when a person is cornered, they can either give up completely, or on the contrary, lose all sense of fear and make a suicidal dash forward. In any case, because of this, Sasuke unleashes all of his inner potential, and he engages in battle with Orochimaru, where he even outperforms Naruto in his Nine-Tails form, using powerful techniques and keeping a clear head. In the end, he manages to pretend to be defeated and catches Orochimaru off guard. Damn it, I'll keep killing you until you're dead. Damn, Alex, I already made peace with Andal a long time ago, but what the hell is this? I appreciate your unique style, man, but can we please not do this? Anyway, those smiley faces on Orochimaru's dress turn out to be bombs. Thanks to them, Sasuke knocks the guy off his feet, then ties him up with shurikens and wire, and then burns him with a huge stream of fire. That's how he manages to gain the upper hand. Supposedly gains the upper hand, because everything that happened turned out to be just a test. And killing Uchiha was never Orochimaru's goal at all. In the end, satisfied with these results, Orochimaru reveals his true face, paralyzes Sasuke with a single hand movement, and leaves his mark on him. After that, Sasuke-kun finally keels over and lies down to rest, leaving Sakura alone. Yeah, she calls for Naruto. Naruto! Sasuke's hurt. Help! After all, Naruto now really looks like someone who can help. Naruto! Yeah, call him again, he's almost awake. This moment is touching since the helpless Sakura realizes she's alone in a forest full of enemies. Both of her teammates who did all the work are incapacitated. Naruto is unconscious and her beloved Sasuke, who knows what's up with him. And in theory, this is the moment when we're supposed to feel just how tough Sakura's situation is, because now she's the one who has to protect everyone. But honestly, by this point, that long-haired hag is just so damn annoying. Whoa dude, you actually made it this far. You're a real hero, you really are. You're tough, for sure. Actually, originally, this video was supposed to go up to the point where Kakashi meets Kabuto in the hospital, where the latter tries to do something to Sasuke. In other words, right at the moment when the preliminary exam ends. Yeah, but it turned out that I wrote so much crap, half of it about that damn Sakura, as you probably noticed, that it all took a lot of time. Honestly, I'd be happy to release a video that's an hour and a half or even an hour and 40 minutes long. That was pretty much my plan anyway. But I'm afraid that well, damn, I just can't handle it anymore, seriously. I'm exhausted, I'm tired, guys, seriously. My back hurts like hell, my eyes ache, my fingers feel like wood. I can't do it, I need to rest. And besides, if all this ended up getting crap views, I'd probably just off myself. So yeah, I'm putting out the first part. The next one will be out soon. Probably in about a week and a half at most. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. If you want to support me, please do. Like this video, leave a juicy, detailed, interesting comment. You can write as many as you want, 2, 3, 5, even 10. Also, share this video somewhere, on Pablo, in a group, on your own page. Just do it, it'll make me happy. Thank you so much for that, and you can also donate to me. For now, I'm saying goodbye to everyone. Stay tuned for the next part of the second part of Naruto coming soon. I love you all, and take care, my dears.